For most of our lives, we are taught that happiness means having someone by your side. This idea becomes even stronger as we grow older. Movies, songs, and even birthday wishes often focus on romantic love and the importance of having a life partner to walk through old age with. Being single at 65 or 70 is often seen as a sign of loneliness and emptiness. But is that really the truth? John, who is 68, once believed it was. After his wife passed away from cancer, he spent over a year searching for a new relationship. He tried dating, chatting online, and even joined a dance class for older adults. The more he tried, the more tired and out of place he felt. One day, while tending to the small garden behind his house, he suddenly realized something. He was not lonely at all. In fact, for the first time in many years, his mind felt calm. There were no compromises, no worries about expectations or emotional duties. There was only himself and a deep feeling of freedom. So we must ask, is a new relationship really the key to happiness in our later years? Or could it be the true peace sometimes comes from living alone without feeling lonely? This article will walk you through 7 reasons why staying single after the age of 65 might be the best choice. Not because you are giving up on love, but because you are choosing peace, freedom, and self-respect. In today's world where independence is highly valued, living alone is no longer something to be afraid of. It may in fact be one of the most lasting forms of happiness. On reducing emotional stress from conflict. When we are young, it is often easier to adjust ourselves to fit into a relationship. We have the energy to argue, to compromise, and to start over. But after the age of 65, most of us no longer wish to fight over the little things. We begin to value peace and quiet, a familiar rhythm to our days, and a personal space that remains undisturbed. In a new relationship, whether living together or simply emotionally connected, differences in habits, values, and worldviews tend to show up early. One person may enjoy a quiet morning with the newspaper, while the other turns on the television as soon as they wake up. One loves outdoor activities, the other prefers staying indoors. These small differences, when repeated daily, can easily build up into feelings of fatigue or even frustration. Modern culture often encourages people to stay true to themselves. While this is a positive idea, it can make compromise within a relationship much harder. Older adults, after decades of living by their own routines, are less willing to change in order to accommodate someone else. This is especially true if those changes disturb the sense of calm they have worked hard to create. When conflict does arise, the damage is not just in the arguments themselves. At this stage of life, the nervous system recovers more slowly. Even small emotional wounds can lead to sleepless nights, long periods of anxiety, and a loss of interest in life. Stress does not just weigh on the mind. It affects the body too. It weakens the immune system, increases the risk of heart problems, and worsens chronic pain. Think of Susan, age 72, who once lived with her boyfriend in Florida after meeting him in a book club. In the beginning, they both believed they could be companions in their later years. But within a few months, the differences in lifestyle became suffocating. He enjoyed late dinners, spent weekends watching sports, and left clutter around the house. Susan, who preferred tidy spaces and light meals at 6 in the evening, began to lose sleep. She became irritable and gradually avoided staying home. In the end, she decided to end the relationship, not because she stopped caring, but because she needed to regain her peace of mind. Living alone after the age of 65 does not mean turning away from intimacy or emotional connection. It simply means choosing to avoid cycles of emotional tension that drain precious energy at this stage of life. When you are no longer forcing yourself to keep the peace, you may sleep better, feel lighter, and have more time to care for your own well-being. And perhaps what many people come to realize after some time alone is this: the peace they once believed could only come from someone else can actually be found within themselves. When you remove conflict from your daily life, you do more than protect your emotional health. You preserve your inner calm, something that becomes more and more important as we grow older. 2. Avoiding financial complications. Finances are a delicate but extremely important matter in later life. After the age of 65, most Americans have already made careful plans for retirement, health insurance, savings, and the legacy they wish to leave for their children and grandchildren. Everything is arranged in a way that feels secure and personal. But a new relationship, whether romantic or marital, can quickly turn that sense of order into confusion. It is not uncommon for older adults to feel uneasy about sharing finances with someone who has just entered their lives. Everyone has their own approach to money. Some people save every penny while others have no problem spending on fancy dinners or luxury items. When living together, the line between what is mine and what is ours begins to blur. That blur often leads to quiet but ongoing tension. It is not just about daily spending. Legal matters and social security benefits can also be affected. In the United States, getting married in retirement can change how much you receive from Social Security or reduce certain Medicare benefits. If your partner has outstanding debt or a poor credit history, you might find yourself exposed to unexpected risks. Robert, age 67, is a retired engineer living in Texas. He shared his story as a cautionary tale. After meeting a woman at a wellness seminar, he quickly entered into a serious romantic relationship. Within just a few months of living together, Robert realized his partner had an out-of-control spending habit. She bought designer clothes and electronic gadgets that were not truly needed. His retirement savings began to shrink. Even though they were not legally married, their shared expenses made it difficult for him to walk away. Eventually, he had to hire a lawyer to separate their finances and step away from the relationship. That experience taught him to be more cautious and to appreciate the freedom of being single. When you live alone, you have full control over your money. You know exactly how much you are spending, how much you are saving. And you never have to explain or argue about personal expenses. You can spend on things that truly matter to you, whether that means travel, healthcare, or helping your great-grandchildren when they need support. Even more importantly, you can make a will arrange your assets and prepare for the future with clarity and peace of mind. Your choices remain yours alone, without being shaped by emotional ties or relationship demands. For many older adults, financial peace of mind is not just about money. It is about feeling empowered and respected. When you are not carrying the burden of someone else's financial stress, you have more energy to live with lightness and purpose. So choosing to stay single is not about being stingy or closed off. It is a wise and practical decision to protect a lifetime of effort and to spend your final years in true freedom. 3. Protecting personal routines and space. There is something that many people only begin to truly understand in later life. The small daily routines are often the shelter where peace and comfort live. It might be drinking coffee in silence each morning, reading by the window in the late afternoon, or walking alone through a familiar park. These simple acts may seem minor, but they bring a sense of stability and familiarity. At this age, nothing else can quite replace that feeling. When entering a new relationship, these personal habits are often the first things to be disrupted. One person might enjoy turning on the television loudly in the morning, while the other needs quiet time for meditation. One may prefer a tidy home, while the other feels comfortable in a bit of mess. The issue is not about who is right or wrong. It is that both people have spent years living by their own rhythm, and adjusting that rhythm is no longer easy. The same goes for personal space. At 70, a small tidy room, a quiet corner of the garden, or even just the freedom to choose your favorite TV program becomes something truly precious. But when you share a home with someone else, you give up a part of that control. You share every corner of your space, every part of the day, and even the smallest decisions. It is not just a change in your surroundings. It can feel like losing a sense of control over your own life. Linda, age 71, lived alone happily in California after retirement. She loved the way she arranged her apartment. It was simple, bright, filled with plants and artwork she had picked out herself. But after her boyfriend moved in, things began to change. He preferred older furniture and filled the shelves and dining table with his belongings. Linda tried to adjust, but over time she no longer felt at home in her own space. Even something as small as not hearing her favorite music in the morning made her feel pushed aside. In the end, she chose to live alone again, and she had never felt such a sense of relief. Living alone does not mean cutting yourself off from love or connection. It simply means holding on to the right to live by your own rhythm. It is about the freedom to shape your day, from breakfast to the evening show, without having to compromise or explain. When your space and routines are respected, you feel safe and true to yourself. And that feeling is one of the most important foundations of mental well-being and the sense of ease we all seek in our later years. 4. Avoiding the burden of caregiving. Everyone hopes to have a companion in their later years, but few people realize that such a relationship can sometimes come with a heavy burden, the responsibility of caregiving. After the age of 65, health becomes a sensitive subject. It is no longer just about our own well-being. It also involves the responsibilities that arise when a partner falls ill. The truth is most older adults face a higher risk of chronic conditions, such as diabetes, heart disease, arthritis, or cognitive decline. When entering a new relationship at this age, no one can guarantee they will not become a caregiver, even if that was never part of the plan. Simple tasks like reminding someone to take their medication, driving them to medical appointments, or preparing meals for a specific health condition can slowly take over your time and energy. The burden is not only physical, but also emotional. Watching someone you love grow weaker each day is heartbreaking, and that ongoing stress can take a serious toll on the caregiver's health. It increases the risk of illness, disrupts sleep, and can even lead to depression. In a country like the United States, where healthcare is often complex and expensive, older adults are especially vulnerable to burnout if they lack professional support. George, age 75, from Ohio, shared a story that many can relate to. After living with his new girlfriend for just over a year, he suddenly found himself in a caregiving role when she suffered a minor stroke that affected her mobility. At first he believed he could manage, but after just a few months helping her move around, bathe, and the 10 therapy sessions left him completely drained. He began missing social gatherings, withdrew from his favorite wellness club, and gradually lost his sense of joy. What troubled him most was not the responsibility itself, but the deep feeling that he was no longer living as his true self. Living alone can help you avoid situations like this. Not out of selfishness, but because you understand your own limits. At this stage of life, protecting your own health is just as important as caring for others. When you are not bound by the role of caregiver, you can direct your energy toward yourself. You can maintain a healthy lifestyle, spend time with friends, join community activities, or simply rest when you need to. Old age is not a time for quiet sacrifice. It is a time to live gently and peacefully. Choosing to live alone in that sense can be one of the most self-respecting decisions you can make. It is a way to protect yourself from exhaustion and to preserve your well-being during the most precious years that remain. Of reducing family tension and inheritance issues. Growing older is not just about living for yourself. It is also a time when children and grandchildren begin paying closer attention to your decisions, from your health and finances to any new relationships you may form. And sometimes what feels like a private matter can quietly become a source of tension between you and your loved ones. In reality, many older adults face discomfort or even resistance from their children when entering a new relationship. This is not only about emotions. It often ties into finances, inheritance, and shifting roles within the family. Ironically, in a society like the United States that values personal freedom, his private choices in later life can easily lead to collective conflict, especially when wills or estates are mentioned. Many adult children worry that a new partner might affect the inheritance they expect to receive. Whether this concern is fair or not, it is a common one. When older adults marry or move in together without clear legal agreements, ownership of assets may shift according to state laws. This has led to numerous legal disputes after a parent passes away. Martha, age 66, who lives in New York, experienced this kind of pressure firsthand. 7 years after her husband died, she met a kind man and the two gradually grew close. But when she shared her plan to live with him, her 2 adult children reacted strongly. They feared that the man might receive part of the wealth she had spent years saving, which they believed was meant to be passed down to them. Even though her partner respected financial boundaries, the suspicion and arguments between Martha and her children became exhausting. In the end, she chose to remain single, not because she stopped believing in love, but because she did not want to risk damaging the strong bond she already had with her family. Living alone helps you maintain clarity and stability in your relationships with your children and grandchildren. There is no question about your intentions. There are no disputes over shared assets or benefits. You retain full control over your will, your estate plans, and your final wishes. Most importantly, you preserve peace within your family. At this stage in life, peace is not only about living alone. It is also about avoiding unnecessary conflict. A private decision, if not carefully considered, can have long-term consequences that last for years. Choosing to remain single is not an escape from love. It is a way to protect the relationships that matter most, your family, your grandchildren, and ultimately yourself. 6. Maintaining freedom and independence. One of the most cherished values for many Americans, especially after retirement, is freedom. No more work schedules, no more raising children, no more long meetings. Old age opens a new chapter where each person can do what they enjoy, at their own pace. And for many, that freedom becomes something they are not willing to give up. When starting a new relationship, even with someone kind and understanding, adjustments must still be made. You have to coordinate your schedules. You have to ask before making plans. You have to consider the other person's feelings before making personal decisions. These things may seem small, but over time they can create a sense of being tied down. And that feeling is something many people have lived with for most of their lives and hope to leave behind in their later years. At 70, you may want to spend a week hiking in the mountains. You may want to spend hours doing pottery, learning to play the guitar, or simply walking alone around the lake. But if your partner does not share the same interests or no longer has the health to join you, you may find yourself forced to choose. Do you give up what you love or live with guilt for leaving them behind? Walter, age 74, once dreamed of driving across the United States after retiring. He planned each stop carefully and even bought a used RV for the trip. But when he began living with his girlfriend, who only felt comfortable at home and disliked traveling, everything was put on hold. After more than a year of trying to compromise, he gave up the plan. Even though he cared deeply for her, he could not shake the feeling of regret. Deep down, he knew the freedom he had once dreamed of was gone. Living alone gives you a precious privilege. You get to follow your own rhythm, without needing permission and without compromise. You can stay up late reading, rise early for yoga, or hit the road whenever your heart feels the call. No one stops you, and no one gets left behind. That kind of freedom is not isolation. It is empowerment. It is the ability to listen to your inner voice and act on it. At this stage of life, independence is not only about taking care of yourself. It is also about the right to live in a way that is true to who you are. Every day you have is a gift, and living alone might just be the way to enjoy that gift more fully, more deeply, and with true freedom. 7. Avoiding the pressure to pair up for the wrong reasons. At age 30 or 40, people often fall in love out of a desire to build a future together, to share dreams or to walk side by side through life. But after the age of 65, the reasons for entering a relationship often look very different. Many are no longer seeking passionate romance. They are simply afraid of being alone. And that fear, if not understood clearly, can lead to rash decisions that bring quiet heartache later on. In popular culture, the ideal image of old age is often two elderly people holding hands while walking through a park. Almost no films show an older person living alone and still feeling happy. Messages like these quietly create pressure. The idea that if you do not have a partner, something must be missing. Expectations from society, friends, and even your own family can make you feel as though you need to be in a relationship to be seen as complete. But when you enter a relationship because of pressure rather than true desire, you are much more likely to end up in the wrong one. Sometimes you stay with someone not because of deep affection, but because you worry what others will think if you remain alone. Or you feel guilty turning someone down simply because they showed interest in you. But instead of feeling loved, you may begin to feel distant, restricted, and even lonelier within the relationship itself. Barbara, age 69, knows this feeling well. After her husband passed away, she lived alone for nearly 8 years. Her friends often encouraged her to find someone new, saying it would help ease the loneliness. Eventually, Barbara agreed to date a widower she met through her church. He was kind, but Barbara always felt like she was living out a story that did not belong to her. Every conversation felt forced. Every outing felt unnatural. I felt lonelier with him next to me, she later said, After a year, Barbara ended the relationship and returned to living alone. For the first time in many years, she felt like herself again. Living alone does not mean turning away from love. It simply means choosing not to rush. It is accepting that you do not need someone else to complete you. It is trusting that happiness comes not from outside, but from the peace you build within. At this stage of life, every decision should begin with listening to yourself. If a relationship brings joy, ease, and comfort, then welcome it. But if you feel tired, unsure, or like you are trying just because you think you should, then perhaps the best choice is no choice at all. 8. Reflection and deeper perspective. Living alone after the age of 65 is often misunderstood as a negative state, as if someone has missed out on something important in life. But the truth is not that simple. For many people, living alone is not the end of love. It is simply a different expression of love, one that is directed toward oneself. In a culture that values connection and partnership, people often mistake loneliness for being single. But these two things are not the same. Loneliness is the feeling of emptiness, even when you are in the company of others. Being single, when it is a conscious and honest choice, is the feeling of being complete, even in solitude. At this stage of life, after many ups and downs, many people come to realize that true fulfillment does not come from a relationship. It comes from within. People who live alone are not lacking in connection. They find joy in conversations with friends, in gathering with neighbors, in caring for pets, or tending to their garden. They build meaningful relationships through book clubs, art classes, or group trips. The presence of others still holds value, but it no longer needs to come with lifelong commitments or emotional burdens. Perhaps the most precious gift of living alone after 65 is the power to choose. You can choose peace over disruption. You can choose clarity over confusion. You can choose to listen to your own voice instead of following the expectations of others. In a society that honors personal freedom, that is not rejection. It is wisdom. When you look back at the 7 reasons we have explored, whether related to health, finances, or personal freedom, they all lead to one common truth. They all point to peace. And sometimes it is only in the quiet space of a life lived alone that you finally hear the deeper voice within yourself. That is where real happiness can be found. Conclusion. We have just walked through a meaningful reflection on life after the age of 65 as a single person. Not from a place of pity or concern, but as a thoughtful and dignified choice. The 7 reasons we explored were not shared to dismiss the value of love or companionship. They were shared to remind us that not everyone needs a new relationship to feel complete. Sometimes peace comes from the decision to be alone and to live in a way that is true to yourself. Being single does not mean you have shut yourself off from love or that you have given up. It is a way of living with awareness. It means you understand what you need, what brings you comfort, and what no longer fits with the season of life you're in now. It means you listen to your body, protect your finances, honor your favorite routines, and shape a life that allows your freedom to flourish. Growing older is not the final chapter. It is a time of fullness, when you are free to live with gentleness, meaning, and a strong sense of self. And if living alone is what brings you calm and clarity, then there is no reason to follow paths that no longer speak to you. If you are living on your own, know that you are not alone in heart. There are many others like you who are finding joy in the stillness, exploring new interests and creating a life that feels rich and personal. You can join a community group, take up a new craft, reconnect with an old friend, or simply enjoy a quiet morning with your coffee. Every moment matters when you live it with presence and intention. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. If you found this message meaningful, please like the video and subscribe to the Light of Wise Elders channel. This is a place where we honor deep reflections, honest stories, and the timeless wisdom that comes with life after 60. Let this stage of life be free from fear. Let it be a journey of discovery and quiet strength. We are here with you, walking together with understanding, kindness, and heartfelt respect.